thank you so much to everyone who's on the line right now for committing the time to give yourself some new ideas and to learn. I'd like everybody to take just a deep breath and relax and congratulate yourself on setting this time aside, giving yourself some white space, some time to think. One of the things I often joke about is that we're knowledge workers and we have no time to think. So I'm going to put some things in front of you that will give you that time to think. So do try not to multitask. Multitask is the killer of not just learning, but also just productivity generally. And just sit back for a moment. How I've structured this presentation is for it to be very practical and actionable. So you'll see I have a whole bunch of tools in here that you can take. So while I talk a little bit about theory and things throughout, including this graph that you see up here, I know I appreciate education that is thoughtful, conceptual, has some high, themes and concepts in it, but then also gives me the tools to take that and do something with it. So that's my promise to you, is to make this practical and actionable, to give you the tools that you need to be able to do something with what you're learning. Now, since this is an IT professional crowd, we've all heard about Murphy's Law, right? We've been hearing about it since the 60s. I think that's when it first got introduced. But one of the things, so just to make sure that we're all on the same page, not Murphy's Law, Moore's Law. Murphy's Law is something completely different. Moore's Law is the law that says, computing power is going to double every 18 months and get cheaper, better, faster, etc. And we've just seen that truly. I mean, throughout my career, I've been doing this for quite a while. And that's what's driving that line. If you take a look at the chart that I'm showing you, that, you have this linear line, which is, by the way, our biological programming is to be linear and local. That's how our minds work. And it is very difficult for us to make the conceptual, the intellectual leap to what does exponential change really mean? So we've gone from linear and local to exponential and global. And that's something that's tough for our heads to get around. So I want to talk about that. But I also want to make the point. So, okay, computers are better, faster, cheaper, blah, blah, blah. But when you think about it this way, that is the single most important thing that's happened in the global economy over the past half a century or more. Think about that. The single most important thing that's happened in the global economy. That significance is frequently lost when we talk about Moore's Law. And I just want to drive that home. And when you take a look at the chart I put in front of you, the exponential line is kind of stealth. It's all those beta products. It's all those, remember the clunky old clunky old phones before they became iPhones. It's really just sort of stealth. People kind of laugh at the early iterations. They think maybe that'll never work or not in my lifetime. And all of a sudden it hits this curve, it shoots up. And that is where we're at with a lot of our technology, is sort of that back half of the curve. So there's a very interesting analogy that's used that you may have, if you looked at my bio at all, you'll see that I've been involved with Singularity University. And that does a lot of executive education all around the world. And one of the founders of that is Ray Kurzweil, which many of you may know, a very famous gentleman, invented all kinds of wonderful things, very forward-thinking individual. And he has a great story to illustrate that back half of the curve, the significance of the back half of that curve. And the story goes that the person who invented chess, very elegant, beautiful game, was eventually invited to show it to the Emperor of India. And the emperor was incredibly impressed by what this game was all about, thought it was an amazing strategic tool, etc., and said, I'd like to reward you for developing chess. I think you could have anything that you want. And the inventor said, well, I'm just a humble person. I just want to have some rice to feed my family. And the story goes that he started by putting just one. How he wanted it to be measured was he wanted just to have 1 grain of rice put on the first square of that chessboard, that checkerboard. Just 1 grain of rice on that first square. And then on the next square, double it. And the next square, double it after that. And do that for the entire the entire chessboard, and that will, that'll be my reward. That's all I want is that rice. And it doesn't sound like a very big deal at all. Matter of fact, when it's 64 squares on a checkerboard, on a chessboard, and that exponential increase will catch you by surprise. The first half of the chessboard, it is, let me take a look at my notes here. It'll get you something like one big field of rice. It's, let's see, 32 squares worth of doubling of this exponential change is 4 billion grains of rice. That sounds like a lot, but it's really just one big square, one big field of rice. And the second half of the chessboard, you keep doubling and doubling and doubling again. It ends up being a pile as big as Mount Everest, which is more than has ever been produced in the history of rice for the history of the world. So it's that back half of the curve, but just incredible leaps that we are about to make. And we actually have to understand that physically, mentally, socially, we're really not adapted to this sort of change. And it's going to take special kinds of leaders like the people on this who are dedicating their free time to learning and on this call that need to be aware of that, and to understand that that's something that we need to grapple with it and make meaningful for people. What's also interesting is as we have this exponential change in technology and complexity of technology, we also have that has enabled and accelerated an exponential growth in the complexity of problems. So it's an interesting, incredible opportunity that we're in right now. And this chart, very simple, really shows you where the disruption is from a conceptual point of view. And let's see here, I'm going to change this slide. All right, and we know that emerging technology, the combinations, the convergence of different emerging technologies is really what's driving this. And I wanted you to think about digital transformation in terms of sort of two parallel paths. It's very easy to get caught up in the digital technologies that you see on the slide. The parallel path, so you have digitalization. I'm going to do a little word play here. Digitalization, using these technologies. But there's also digitization, which is taking all of your current information that might be, in file cabinets, in heads, in multiple different systems, and digitizing that. And that then becomes a platform for digital products. And I'll give you an example of that in just a moment. We're going to use a case study, but, Amazon is a great example of that. When they first started, they were just using email and Word and Excel and running around, and they weren't the sophisticated company that they are now. People think, okay, it's a natively digital organization. In fact, it's not. When it started in 1994, all these technologies you see on the screen pretty much weren't commercialized, certainly. And so.
Hi there. Hope you enjoyed that last clip. My name is Michael Maludis, and if you'd like to watch the full 60 minutes of that last webcast, while also gaining complete unlimited access to our entire library of IT learning, simply visit our subscribe page at greatpro.org/subscribe. Unlimited annual access is $199 per year, but if you use the coupon code LEARN2EARN, you can drop that membership fee to just $149. That's less than $13 per month for unlimited access to over 1,000 hours of on-demand career development, covering the entire spectrum of IT management best practices, including business analysis and requirements, software development, quality and testing, risk management, process improvement, project management, and even digital transformation. But your membership doesn't just give you unlimited access to our vast learning library. You also get free access to our mobile app, as well as direct access to our network of over 300 of the world's leading IT consultants, all of whom are dedicated to putting practical knowledge at your fingertips so that you can learn more and earn more. I hope you will join me in becoming a member of the Great IT Professional and advancing your career with us. And if you're on YouTube, don't forget to hit that subscribe button above so that you get notified whenever we publish new free webcasts each week of the year. Thank you for your time and best wishes for your continued success.